Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. This is Mark Hyde.
And Chris Fuller.
And on today's episode of Real Talk Christian, we are sitting down with Andrew Wood to talk about pro-life after birth. Hey, Fuller, you ready to get educated?
Let's go.
Let's go.
Mark, what's going on, buddy?
Welcome back to the show, my dude.
Hey, we're in a new year. It's time for some new guests.
New year, new guests. What is it? New year, new you? Is that kind of the classic?
I'm a boomer, man.
You're a boomer. Yeah, you don't know all these things. New year. I've heard new year, new do. New year, new you.
Right.
But we are into 2021, the dumpster fire of 2020. We've survived it. We've survived the great dumpster fire.
The dumpster fire.
The great dumpster fire of 2020. And let's just pray that 2021
is better than 2020.
Okay, have you seen the memes where people are always talking about where it's like, nothing can be worse than 2021, and then Christians reading the book of Revelation?
Right, looking
like oh boy, like this is going to be wild. But I'm excited for 2021, man.
Definitely.
We got a lot of crazy, amazing conversations lined up for the podcast 2021. We got some big changes in my life and coming in 2021, and then there's some big changes in your life coming 21. You guys are expecting baby number 4, right?
What? No. You're going to get me in trouble. I'm going to have to sleep in a tent
Piper, you're
outside
having a
in the
new
winter.
brother. Piper, that'd be
No.
Janelle's gonna kill me for that.
Yeah. She definitely will. But anyways, man, let's
goodness.
What are we drinking tonight?
Yeah, dude. So, okay, I want you to explain this one because you roasted this specifically for me.
This was roasted about 3.5 hours ago.
So this is and we ground it up right before we dumped the water in.
Fresh. So this is the High Grown Mexican, which is a RTC
that's my favorite.
fan favorite. And but we added a little something, a little extra, into it. And so we used a coffee flavoring oil, and it's called Santa's Secret Christmas Recipe.
Santa's Secret Christmas Recipe?
But
what'd you do? Just like crack open a sugar cookie and like dump it on the coffee?
You got it.
Tell you what, dude, I've had Barney's Santa's White Christmas. That's probably my favorite White Christmas. They're the one from the local farmers markets.
Right.
It's all right. It's all right. But dude, this is
nice.
For your first experiment with Christmas, well, no, sorry, we're past Christmas. For your seasonal beverage,
right.
You nailed it, bro. You absolutely.
That's right, man.
I love it. Right, you absolutely nailed it. So Mexican high grown. I feel like maybe we should send this out to a listener. What do you think? Maybe we should pick a random person and just send it out to them.
I'm thinking, yeah. Let's send it out. I don't know. We'll pick somebody to send it out to.
How about this? The first person to email us after listening to this episode will get the free coffee. How about that? First person to email us.
Good for me, man.
At realtalkchristianpodcast@gmail.com.
We'll give them the mini swag and throw in a little bit of coffee with it.
That sounds amazing. Because I would say we would give it to a person who leaves a review, but we haven't had a review in a couple, 3 weeks now. A lot more episodes, but weeks since recording, yeah. So if y'all can do us a favor,
come on now.
just give us a review on Apple iTunes. A lot of people are finding us on Spotify now. Right. Actually, 2 people, one on Instagram, one on Facebook, they both they wrote us a comment and said they found us on Spotify.
Right.
So all those out in Spotify land, y'all the best too. But if you're on Apple iTunes, just leave us a review, helps us climb the rankings.
If you don't know where to go, check us out on the website, realtalkchristianpodcast.com, and we have every link that you could possibly imagine there. So
yeah, that sounds good. Well, hey, dude, let's not waste any more banter time. Let's get into the episode.
Let's do it.
Today I am beyond thrilled to bring this guy here. So I've been following him for a little bit now. In fact, you guys might remember, I hope you remember, you should remember Beth Schneider from episode 39. She's the one who connected us with Andrew Wood, because if you go back and listen to her episode, she said she was sitting in a pro-life service at her church.
That's right.
And there was some random dude who gave a beautiful message, and Beth said, why not me? And that started her journey into the foster care community and then adopting her 5 kids,
right,
and starting that. So
definitely,
tonight we have with us that exact preacher, Andrew Wood, with us tonight on the show. So Andrew, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Being called preacher, that you really set the bar high.
You like that one? Well, I mean, I didn't drop the Russell Moore connections or the Gospel Coalition connections or anything like that.
Yeah, well,
you just didn't.
No, I just did.
Yeah, that's setting the bar high. I'm just a dude from Tennessee that
God's
the
country.
Lord, that I just I've been blessed to have some opportunities to speak. And I was just excited, when Beth reached out, I was just tickled that somebody listened to something I said. So
she apparently listened to it 5 times over. I think she listened to it 5 times over and just didn't stop.
Well, that's awesome. No, she's great, and I love to watch what she's been able to do and how God has used her with those little girls. It's been quite amazing. I have a picture actually. We were at I don't even remember what we were at. My wife and I were somewhere, and Beth was there with, I think it was either her oldest or second oldest, but she was a baby at that point. And there's a picture of me laying, and I fell asleep on a bench, and that little girl is laying on my chest. And I just thought, and look at where Beth has taken all of that since then. It's been really cool to watch.
Oh, I hear everybody going,
dude,
"Aw."
I know. That's like, man, we hit little
awesome.
happy tears at the 6-minute mark. Like, that's
I love
just
it.
unreal, man. Well, hey, so, just for the people that are out there listening, I mean, obviously, Fuller and I know who you are, but probably most of the people here in our RTC family have no clue who you are, man. So tell us about yourself, your family, and what you do.
Well, first off, I think it's important that I tell you what coffee I was drinking.
Oh, we didn't
yeah.
ask. Oh, man.
Yeah, so Black Rifle Cold Brew is my latest, which is Black Rifle coffee.
I didn't know they had a cold brew.
Their cold brew is good, so highly recommend it. And so that's what I'm a cold brew dude, but I will say since it's turned colder here in Tennessee, I have been drinking some hot stuff as well. But the cold stuff is my go-to. As far as who I am, my name is Andrew Wood. I'm currently the executive director of Hope Resource Center, which is one of the largest pregnancy centers in the Southeast, located in Knoxville, Tennessee. I grew up in Middle Tennessee. For those of you not familiar with the state, that's how we refer to our state, as West, Middle, and East Tennessee. So I grew up in Middle Tennessee, south of Nashville. My dad is a dairy farmer, and so I grew up, some would say out in the middle of nowhere. I say it's in the middle of somewhere, full of somebody people, because we're all made in the image of God. But we grew up, that's where I grew up in a small town called Cornersville. Graduated there, ended up meeting my wife at community college. That's right. There's nothing wrong with community college.
Good old community college.
I went on and finished my bachelor's degree at Middle Tennessee State University, and my degree is in political science. And then we moved to Knoxville in 2008. And my wife and I both started working at the University of Tennessee. While at the University of Tennessee, just really felt the Lord calling me to ministry, and really felt that tug since I was about 18 years old, but never really, my mom would say, I think you're going to be a pastor. And I would go, well, you think I was going to be in the NBA too. So let's not go crazy. And so, and I was nervous that what I felt like was a call was more of my ego. I like to talk in front of people. And so I was real nervous about what that really looked like. And then I watched the video where John Piper explained, how do you really sense the calling, and everything he said in there. I was like, okay, that appears that I'm going in that direction. And so I was working at UT full time and went to my supervisor, who was a believer, and said, I feel like I need to pursue this and go to seminary. And they allowed me to go on a flex schedule and take one day a week to go to a satellite campus of Southern Seminary here in East Tennessee. And I didn't finish, but while attending, the church that I was going to had a need for a children's pastor. And so again, because I was listening to pastors and sermons everywhere, I was listening to a Matt Chandler sermon, and he said, hey, if you feel called to be a pastor and there's an opening for a kids pastor position and you say no, then I would question your call. And I was like, okay, man. So here's a need. And so I just, before thinking, was like, well, if y'all need a kids pastor, I feel like I'm being called to ministry. I like kids, and we have a couple, and so if I can help,
we have a couple.
And so I became the kids pastor at that church, which is where ultimately where Beth heard me speak. But she heard me speak while I was serving as executive director at the pregnancy center. So fast forward, I started at the pregnancy center in 2015. My wife and I have been married since 2006. We have 4 kids. Oldest is 9, a boy named Gavin. And then we have Summer, who is 7. And then we have Evelyn, who will be 4 in just a couple weeks. And then we have Charlie, who is she'll be 3 in January. And so about every 2 years, the Wood family pops out another baby. So that's just how it works.
So you're out of diaper phase then, huh?
We are so close, man. we are so close. We've not been out of diapers for 9 years.
I know envy is a sin, but I'm kind of envious of you right now.
Yeah, and we are so close. Our youngest is potty training, and actually this morning, she woke up and came into the bathroom and said she needed to use the potty. Her diaper was, this is way too much information, but her diaper was dry all night long. And so we are so close to getting rid of that stinky diaper genie that has lasted us for 9 years, and we're moving along. So
awesome.
we do drive the Wood family church van. I drive a 12-passenger van. And that was my dream, and so I have achieved that dream.
You are living. I mean, you literally are living the dream of every person who was like, "I want to be a ministry with kids."
Right.
So let me ask you this then. So with what you do right now at Hope Resource Center, did you start Hope Resource Center, or did you more so just take the reins?
No, I more so took the reins. So
okay.
Hope was started in 1997, and there was just one of the founders just believed there was a need in this community. We're a college town here in Knoxville. There's multiple abortion clinics, and he just felt like there was a need for a facility that was fully medical, so that would do everything that an abortion clinic would do that didn't offend God. Mm-hmm. So having nurses and nurse practitioners on staff to fully offer reproductive health care without the abortion and birth control side of it. And so when a patient comes into Hope, they are sitting down with licensed, registered, paid staff, nurse practitioners, and nurses. And we believe that's the model that's ultimately going to shake things up and see us get to a place where abortion would be not just illegal, but unthinkable in a civilized society.
You know, I didn't even think about that being in a college town. Cause when I visited Beth in Knoxville, I actually stayed on campus there at UT, but I didn't think, but you would. Now, looking at it, obviously the demographic for the age of those who would go and have abortions would most likely be not party kids. College, they probably do that too, but college kids, Too, yeah. So just before we even get into some of the tough questions, are there any super cool stories from Hope Resource Center that you would be able to share with us tonight?
I mean, yeah, I could spend hours doing that. I mean, we have, it really is amazing once the interesting thing about the pro-life movement is you have the advocacy side, which is more of a political side, and hey, we need to get some changes legislatively or through the courts. And then you have the side of the only way we're going to see this change is if we show the pictures. So that mindset is like, okay, the reason why the Holocaust and slavery ended was because we actually showed pictures of what was happening to people. So they think if we show pictures of abortion, we'll ultimately change people's minds. And then you have kind of what I would call the front line, which is pregnancy centers, which are opening every single day, operating on small budgets. And there's close to 3,000 of us all over the country offering free services, pregnancy tests, ultrasounds, those type things, depending on the size and the scope of their care. And so what's awesome about that is we have patients that come here that they might have walked out of the abortion clinic. Or in the state of Tennessee, what you see is we have certain laws on the books that require, a 48-hour waiting period. So you have to see an ultrasound and then wait 48 hours before you can have an abortion. So that gets them in the door of a pregnancy center, or they saw us, we have marketing. So they may see us on TikTok or Snapchat or Instagram. But the stories that have been amazing is watching patients come here and who were really leaning toward, hey, I'm not ready for this. I'm going to have an abortion. One of those being a student that was at UT. She was a nursing student. Her parents were great. They were in church. They were, supportive. And this goes to the lie that we tell ourselves. And so this young lady found herself pregnant. Her boyfriend at the time said, here's $1,000, go take care of it. And which,
wow.
She knew what that meant. She was in denial. She was scared that her parents were going to disown her. even though they were supportive and loved her, she was still terrified to tell them that she was pregnant. She didn't tell anybody. And the couple people that she did tell didn't really know how to react and what to do. And she said, so for a birthday present for her, she said, I'm just going to go see an ultrasound. I want to see what's going on. And so she came to Hope Resource Center. She laid on our exam table, and our nurse was giving her an ultrasound. And when the image popped up on the big flat screen that we have on the wall, all our nurse did was look at her and say, congratulations. And this young lady said that one word was a word that she hadn't heard yet, and that it was the one positive thing that anybody had said to her about the baby that was growing inside of her. And she says that's the word that changed it all for her. She ultimately chose life. She went through parenting classes. We gave her a baby shower. She graduated UT, became a nurse. She's now working at a hospital in close to Chattanooga. She's volunteering at a pregnancy center in that city, and she's been a great mom. And so we've seen patients come through here that were tough shells to crack, and they wouldn't open up, they wouldn't smile, they wouldn't cry. It was like just a very hard outer shell. And we're actually focusing on this story for our year-end piece coming up. And we pair this particular patient with one of the happiest ladies that I've ever met in my life, which was her mentor. And from the outside looking in, you would have thought this is never going to work. They could not be more different. And the Lord just really cultivated a beautiful relationship in that. And then we were able to throw a baby shower for this young lady, and I was able to pray over her. She actually opened up and she hugged our staff and cried with our staff. And we just saw the Lord do some beautiful things through that. And so we've seen story after story of the Lord working in this. And we've seen hard stories where ladies walk out of here and still go to the abortion clinic. But because we've had those relationships cultivated, they continue to come back to us. So they know that there's a place that they can call. Even after an abortion, they can call us and they're going to be loved and served well here. And we don't water down the gospel. We don't water down the truth of abortion, but we certainly let them know that the cross covers sin. And that's why we're here today, and that's why they're there as well. So,
yeah, I was going to wait to do this to the end, but I think now's a good time to do this. Is there a way, Fuller and I, we're over here in Northern Indiana. We got people who actually, one person just reached out to us. She lives in Ireland, which is nuts. We have people in Texas. We got people in South Africa. We have people all over the world. Now, obviously, the best thing to do is find your local pregnancy center and to be able to either give financially or volunteer. But if people all of a sudden are like, you know what, Mark, I want to know more about Hope Resource Center and maybe even donate money or time or whatever. Is there what's the best way that people can get a hold of either the Resource Center or for you for more information?
And the best way to do that is investinghope.com. Just investinghope.com. You can find us on our website. We have a blog there. We have a podcast. We have stories will be posted there. You can also find my contact information there as well. And so investinghope.com would be the best place.
That's super cool. And hey, so before we get into the hard conversations though, because we got some doozies. We got some doozies.
Oh, I'm ready, man.
We had Fuller. It was one of your contacts.
Yeah, it was one of my my high school friends actually that I was in a drama class with.
Drama camp sounds very homeschoolery though, bro.
Yeah, it was a drama camp. It really was. But anyways, she was part of the FEM program over in Ohio. Do you guys deal much with the FEM?
We do not. No, I'm not.
Are you familiar with FEM?
I'm not. No, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, reason we bring it up, Sarah Nass, we had her on the podcast episode. Oh, what number episode was she? I feel like she was in the 20s or something like that. Basically, it was like fertility, education, and medical management. Basically, it's like learning. We were two dudes being very schooled in this way, but basically it's women learning their bodies and hormones and natural
rather than
birth control and stuff like that too.
Right. And that's I'm familiar with that.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we are, and we wrestle with the thought of birth control. There's a lot of opinions that go along with that. The Wood family just, to be completely transparent, my wife was on birth control when we first got married. And she wouldn't be upset that I would tell you this, but it was not the woman that I married. It completely changed her hormones. I mean, and she would admit to that. Yeah. And so we've been obviously we haven't had problems having kids. So clearly birth control was not a thing that we focused on as a Wood family. But
right.
But yeah, there's differing opinions and there's a lot that goes along with that. What I would encourage people to do, regardless of where your opinion is, there's a lot of literature and books about truly what type of birth control, what it's made to do,
right.
That I would highly recommend for Christians to dive into. I do think it's an important topic, and it's not as easy as just, hey, go start taking this or not taking that.
Right.
I think it's important we do our research on that.
So just a quick question for you at Hope Resource Center. Do you guys, obviously it's, most of the people that come in there are already pregnant.
Right.
Do you guys talk about contraceptives after the pregnancy is over with
sure.
with
So
people that come in?
Yeah, our biggest push is going to be abstinence. I mean, there's no
right.
There's no form that's 100%
right.
like not laying down. And
right,
so,
exactly.
And so we're going to push abstinence for sure. But yeah, I mean, our nurse practitioners have those conversations about their options moving forward, what that looks like. We connect them with OBs and offices that can help with that. So yeah, our biggest thing is we want to make sure that they're having those conversations with us. We'd much rather them have a conversation with one of our Christian nurse practitioners or nurses
right.
than a nurse or nurse practitioner inside of an abortion clinic, because that conversation is going to go very different. Because we're celebrating what marriage can be. We're celebrating what the possibilities that are out there, instead of saying, well, get on this and you can still achieve your dreams because you don't want a kid right now. Those are the things that we're not going to say, that an abortion clinic may say. Because we believe, which is counter to the culture, that you can have your baby and your dreams. You don't have to pick one or the other.
Right.
And I think that's very important for people to get a grasp of. It's not pitting those two things against each other. You can have both of them. You really can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So bouncing off that though, man. So, with this whole idea, it sounds like you guys, and I know this also because of Beth. I mean, Beth says you guys throw legit the best baby showers of all time. Like Beth,
they're pretty good, man.
That's what and you guys don't take used stuff. You guys only give moms new, like no crap allowed type stuff.
Yeah, it's all brand new items. Yeah, so we do over 70 baby showers a year.
Wow,
that's unreal, dude. That's
you guys do retroactive baby showers.
Apparently Fuller's need some car seats. But so
I heard you're having another kid this year, so maybe when that happens.
Joke's on you. I would love to find that you guys are Kevin kid number. That would be hilarious.
No, three is plenty for us.
Oh goodness,
abstinence is the key.
I've heard 7 kids is more fun, but it's okay. So
we'll see in a year.
Oh goodness. So it sounds like you guys come alongside these moms, when the baby's born. It's not the typical Christian ostracize of, because obviously Paul and I both agree with this, and we know you do as well, where it's the baby's not the sin. It's the sex outside of God's plan for marriage. That's the sin. So you guys celebrate the baby, you celebrate life, you set these moms up with mentors. But kind of going into the political sphere a little bit too, with that thought process in mind, because I know you were in politics too. In today's political climate, I've seen a lot of people have said things kind of like this. And one was a very high profile, he's a pro-lifer and he's a big time artist. But I actually read this on his stories and I started diving into it. I read a lot more Christians who were at platforms were saying the same thing, where they say, I'm a pro-lifer, but I had to vote Democrat this year because although I agree with because I disagree with how the left side handles the issue, they are at least pro-mom and pro-life afterbirth, where it seems like Republicans are the right side, which a lot of Christians fall into, just care about the baby in the womb and not happens when the baby comes out. How would you as a Christian respond to this idea or this statement?
Wow,
that's
not holding anything back there.
Well, that's the question. Well, I don't know how to answer that one.
First, I could not disagree with that statement more, and here's why. The reality is, no one is adopting or fostering more kids than Christians. No one is stepping up for single moms more than Christians. Planned Parenthood, abortion clinics aren't throwing baby showers for anybody. Go look at the numbers. They haven't thrown one baby shower. And so the argument that, you're just pro-baby, first off, yes, I am pro-baby, 100% pro-baby. I'm not going to apologize for that. Second off, arguing that all we are pro-baby there may be a handful of people that fall in that camp, but the vast majority of Christians would say 100%. And we see it every day. We've had Christians that go to churches, local churches here in our community, that we have reached out to and said, we have a young woman that is pregnant and homeless, and they have taken her. They've never met her, and they've opened up their home to her. They've taken her in and loved on her, and she's become their family, and she got to see this is what a mom and dad looks like in the same home. This is what a husband and wife can look like in the same home. This is what it's like to have a cookout with friends and family. And we had a patient, the Lord saved her inside of a life group at a church that she wasn't a part of after she dropped out of our parenting classes.
Wow.
But because of that relationship with her mentor, the mentor did not give up. And so even though she dropped out of our parenting classes, she didn't receive a baby shower from us. But guess what she did receive in that small group? She received salvation and a baby shower. That
Right.
small group at that church gave her a baby shower. And so that's why I get a little frustrated because I think that's a cop-out. And I think that it's look, there is no party that is perfect, certainly not. And I'm not here to be a sheep for either party. We have to be at a place as Christians where we make conscious decisions on who we're voting for, and we're all going to justify what that looks like. But I had a conversation with a guy one day when I told him what I did, and he was like, "Well, y'all aren't though just pro baby, are you?" And I was like, "First off, why would you lead with that? Second, that you're using a very broad brush to paint an entire movement that literally." I mean, when I go to conferences for pregnancy centers, I'm 36 years old, and when I started in this work, I was 30 in the pregnancy center world, and I was by far the youngest. Literally, the conference organizer came up to me at my first conference and looked at me and said, "Why are you here?" Now, they didn't do that in an offensive way. They did that because our movement, the pregnancy center world, is ran by mostly women that are in their 50s and 60s, and they have given 30, 35 years to this movement. And so I get offended when people want to go after them because I'm going, they could have done something else and made more money. They're doing everything that they can. And if you combined all of our budgets of pregnancy centers across this country, it wouldn't even equal up to what Planned Parenthood receives from the federal government. And so it's not, we're doing everything we can and we're making a difference. And we're seeing a decline in abortions, and we're seeing families step up and do what Beth did and others are doing. And so for me, just simply saying you're just pro baby, I don't think that's a well thought. I think it sounds good and it looks good on a bumper sticker and it sounds good on the campaign trail, and it allows for people to, in my opinion, kind of give them a way out to go a certain way or a vote a certain way. But I think we need to wrestle with that more. If we believe that every child in the womb bears the image of our God, then we can't just sit idly by while 3,000 babies are aborted every day. We just can't.
Right.
If that's what we believe. If we don't believe that, then okay, you can try to justify things all you want. But for me, every service that we provide at Hope is free. We don't charge a dime. Most 99% of the pregnancy centers in this country, that's how we operate. Mm-hmm. And if the abortion clinics were truly about women, why are they charging money? Why are they charging insurance companies? Why are they taking federal money? You see, we don't do any of those things at the pregnancy center level because we believe this is a calling into our lives to transform and be involved in our communities. And it gives us an opportunity to, yes, be pro-baby, but we're able to look at that mom and say, we care about you. Your baby bears the image of God, but so do you. And 9 times out of 10, you reach mom, baby's going to be fine. We know that. And so that's why we wrestle with that. But we're going to continue to celebrate that baby while we celebrate that mom in the process as well.
Mm. That's good. So we definitely agree with you with the made in the image of God.
Oh yeah, we talk about that all the time.
We covered it in our episode 33 for our listeners who forgot what episode it was. But yeah, we covered that in episode 33.
Personhood theory.
With
Nancy Pearcey, I think, was the author of the book where we got a lot of that from.
Yeah.
But
my question for you is, as a Christian who believes that we are all made in the image of God, how as a Christian can I talk to somebody who believes that, you know, a baby is just a fetus that's a clump of cells? How can I approach somebody that has that mindset?
Sure. Yeah, my biggest thing, and I wrestle with this a lot. I mean, all my beliefs and thoughts on this. I mean, I've argued with myself and I've debated people. But the thing that I keep coming back to is every person that I've ever laid my eyes on, every single individual, whether they're in the drive-through line or they're at Dollywood or they're in my vehicle or they're in somebody else's vehicle or they're my own kids, every person I lay my eyes on bear witness to the fact that life begins in the womb. You see, when I see people out here on the street, I don't look at them as a clump of cells. Now, technically, I guess they are. They're a blob of tissue. But everybody, no matter if you're pro-life, pro-choice, or somewhere in between, the very existence of you points to the fact that life begins somewhere. And we all have the same story. Whether you had good parents or crappy parents, you grew inside of a belly. That is just the fact. And so we know that, and we're not denying that. And so to say that is something else to me is not just anti-gospel, it's anti-science.
Right.
Science to me has caught up with Psalm 139. So, you formed my inward parts, you knitted me together in my mother's womb. Science proves that out. With what we can see on ultrasound now, my kids went with us to, every time we would have another pregnancy, they would come with us, the older ones would come with us to the ultrasound. And at no point did they question what was inside of their mom. Not because we were brainwashing them, but because they could see it with their own eyes. We have 3D images now of that's my little sister. And so now you have a generation that's growing up of seeing their siblings on their refrigerator. And that's changing things. Or you can do a quick Google search. Hey, this is, what's it look like? What's the baby look like at 6 weeks in the womb? Or we've even had patients come in that have literally said to our nurse, when you start this ultrasound, if I see a blob of tissue, I'm going to walk out of here and get an abortion. If I see a life, I'm going to have this baby. And when we hear that, we're like, okay, she's going to choose life. Because when they look at the screen, there's no arguing what they're seeing. And that's why in an abortion clinic, they don't have big flat screens on the wall. That's why at an abortion clinic, they don't print off the pictures and hand it to the mom. Because they know the difference that makes. 86 to 90% of our patients that see an ultrasound choose life. So ultrasounds make a difference. And so when I see that, when I have somebody say, well, that's just a blob or it's not real, the harder conversation occurs, and we're seeing more of this, is abortion proponents coming out and saying, I know it's a life. I know it's an individual. I know it's a unique creation. And that doesn't change my mind. That's the harder conversation to have is, okay, well, then what do I do with that? They are admitting to the fact that it is a real human. And they still are completely fine with ending that. I think the reason why we say a blob of tissue or instead of heartbeat, they'll say electrical pulse. We say
Wait, really?
Because
they don't call it a heartbeat anymore?
Some of them don't.
Oh my goodness.
And the reason why they do that is because it dehumanizes what the baby. Even if you remember a couple Super Bowls ago, there was a Doritos commercial, and Planned Parenthood actually came out and said that commercial humanized the fetus. What it had was the baby inside the womb, I think, did something when the mom ate a Dorito.
Yeah. It was the dad was eating and you saw the baby like freaking out inside the womb and shot out to get the Dorito or something.
So they would say, well, that you're humanizing the fetus. No, we're doing, that's a normal thing.
Right.
Like you don't, when somebody invites you to a baby shower or a gender reveal party, you don't go, what are we doing? that's just a blob of cells. No one says that.
Right.
When they tell you to wear blue or pink because what do you think it's going to be, a boy or a girl, if we can still say that in 2021? We have the reason why people don't freak out is because that's a normal. Well, of course that's a baby. Of course it is. And the question is, what do we do with that? And then how do we move the ball down the field? How do we have conversations with people about what is happening in there? And then people will say, well, how do we afford this? Or she's addicted to drugs, or she's in an abusive relationship, or she was raped, or this is, and those are things that we have to wrestle with. We have to wrestle with as a state, as a federal government, when it comes to finances, when it comes to fostering and adopting and abuse and all of those things. But the fact remains that's an individual life that has never been created before and will never be created again.
Right.
So if we believe that to be true, then it requires something of us. I used to hear in the pro-life movement, you'll hear people say, well, you have somebody, they told Tim Tebow's mom to abort him. And what if she would have? Look at all we would have missed with not having Tim Tebow on this earth. And that's true. And, I'm a Knoxville UT fan, and, other than his Florida years, great. Tim Tebow's a good dude.
Oh, goodness. Hey, this is Notre Dame country, so we hate everybody.
But the reality is, that kid in the state's custody should move me to do something. His life, her life, is just as valuable as a Tim Tebow's life. And so we have to get to a place where we don't give value to life based on what they have accomplished 20 years after they were born.
Right.
As soon as they were created at conception, they have value and they matter and they require something of us. And that's hard, and it's tough, and it's not an easy. It requires sacrifice and tough decisions. But that's where I come at it from, is at least be honest about what's happening inside the womb, because science has even told us that. And even from a secular standpoint, we can see that is a life uniquely created with its own heartbeat, with its own organs. They say at 7 to 8 months, there was a study out of, I think, Kansas that said the baby can even pick up the accent of the mom and dad, which means when our babies were born, if there would have been a New Yorker in the hospital, they would have known that's not my dad.
Oh,
my
my
dad
goodness.
doesn't have that kind of accent. Like, the studies have proven that. So if that's the case, we know that babies recoil from pain. We know that they feel pain. That's why if you go in and your baby needs surgery, they give it anesthesia, even though it's in the womb. Why would we do that? Because doctors know they feel pain.
Right.
They know that. And so again, these are not things that we can just throw away. We have to wrestle with them.
So I have a follow-up of two questions. It's a two-part question. So, I've done the life walks and I've protested the abortion clinics.
Sure.
And the thing I've always struggled with is there more that I can do against the abortion clinic? But more importantly, the second part is, how can I minister to the person that is thinking about getting an abortion or has already gotten an abortion as a Christian, who it's not my everyday life to be, in a baby clinic or anything like that. I'm all about trying to help out and seek out where I can go up against the abortion clinic. But first and foremost, my call is, Christ's law is to love others. And so how do I do that and minister to those who are thinking of having an abortion or who have had one and now are maybe regretting that?
Well, I think it's important when we look at, especially post-abortive men and women, and it is men and women. I think a lot of times we forget about the guy that drove the female to the clinic or paid for it, or the granddad that took his granddaughter. There are men that are affected by this as well. When I go to churches, when I talk to pastors, we have to sit in the reality that there are, even if I don't necessarily believe this stat, but they say 1 in 3, 1 in 4 people are directly affected by abortion. They would say 1 in 3 women have had an abortion. I don't necessarily believe that stat, but let's say it's true. That means that when a pastor is preaching, there are women and men in his congregation that are post-abortive. there are high school girls in his congregation that are pregnant right now, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do. And so we have to talk about it in a way like we talk about other things. That Jesus went to the cross for me on my worst day. And if we believe the cross covers sins, then it covers the sin of abortion.
Right.
Now, again, that's not watering it down. That's speaking the truth. When Jesus went to the woman at the well, what did he do? He walked up to her and he asked if she was married. And he says, that's right. And the man currently laying in your bed is not your husband either. He didn't water down the truth. He exposed the truth. He brought her out of the darkness to light. And he said, what you're looking for right here and in your life currently is going to leave you thirsty. And so what we have to show people as gospel people is we have something so much greater. And we may be struggling. We may have made some poor choices in our life. And they may be lasting choices that are going to affect us forever. And we're going to wrestle with them for a long time. But there's not a time that I go speak at a church where I don't have a 50 or 60-year-old man come up to me with tears in his eyes and say, 30 years ago, I paid for an abortion. 30 years ago, I drove someone to an abortion clinic. And I don't know what to do. And so with the fact that 50 or 60-year-old man is still dealing with the brokenness, he hasn't found the healing, that he believes the Lord can forgive me of a lot of things, but I don't think he can forgive me of this.
Right.
Now, why would he believe that? Has he heard his pastor say things that's going to make him believe that? Has he heard Christian friends say things that are going to make him believe that? The best illustration I can give is a lot of times we find ourselves as Christians standing on the shore and somebody's drowning, and we say things like, kick your feet. or we're screaming at them and saying, how could you do this to us?
Yeah.
How could you run our last name down in this small town? Everybody knows us. We're respected, and you're going to do this? So when we say those things from the shore and we're telling them how to get out of the drowning situation, we think we're helping, but we're really pushing them down further.
Right.
And what a Christian has been called to do is get in there, get messy. You're going to get scratched. You're going to get hurt. It's going to be hard. But we've been called to get in there and bring them something that's so much greater. That can only bring the peace that they're looking for, and that's the gospel.
Amen.
And so those are tough conversations to have. But man, they're so worth it. And it's hard to love people because there's a good chance that person that you pull out or that you take the gospel to is going to find themselves back in that water drowning again next week.
Right.
Or next month. Or for us at Hope, we may think we had a breakthrough, and then we see that young lady a year later with another unplanned pregnancy from another man.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we respond? What's our posture in those moments as Christians? And that's the tough part. But loving people are hard. It's hard.
Right.
And that's what we have. We have animals at the Woodhouse. I have 3 dogs, we have 2 cats, and we have a pig. Loving all of those animals are easy. Simple. Mm-hmm. They don't ever talk back. They're just easy.
That's the main thing. They don't talk back. They don't talk back.
That's right. But loving the people in our lives, it's hard and it requires something of us. And it's messy.
Right.
And it may mean getting a phone call at 3:00 in the morning. It may mean seeing them back here 9 months later. It may mean that they walked out of our office after hearing from a nurse practitioner and they still got an abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, we have to, do we believe the gospel can cover it? Do we want to be engaged? Do we want to be the vessel that God uses? Or do we want to just kind of throw in the towel and say, it's not worth it anymore? And sure, there's days, I'll admit, there's days where I'm like, maybe I just go back and milk cows with my daddy and just, just get
live the simple life, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's those days for sure.
So I think we're getting close to landing the plane here a little bit. But, I'm just thinking of our listener base right now, looking at the demographics and the age of people that listen. And the biggest age group right now are between the 18s and like early 30s. I think 1835 is like one of our biggest listening demographics,
right. Yeah,
which
definitely
is the prime age of when,
sure,
unexpected pregnancies happen or there are guys who their girlfriend ends up getting pregnant or whatnot. But if there's someone here listening right now who, let's say they just found out they were pregnant or they're dealing with pregnancy scares or anything like that, and they're not sure what to do, could you give them a word real quick of just a word of encouragement of what would you want to say to that person who is struggling right now with those thoughts?
Well, I would first speak to if there's a man listening and he has found himself in a situation where his girlfriend or his wife or maybe a one-night stand, whatever that looks like, is pregnant. The last thing you need to say to her is, I'll support you in whatever you do. What that statement does is put all the burden of that decision on her shoulders. And what you're doing in that moment is you're Adam in the garden while Eve is being tempted and you're twiddling your thumbs doing nothing. That doesn't mean it's not going to be a tough decision. What it means is you need to wrestle with it along with her. And saying, don't become Pontius Pilate where you're just kind of, I'm going to wash my hands of this. You make your decision and I'll just support you. That's not really support. That is putting all the burden on them. Right. If you're a young lady and you find yourself in this situation, I would say reach out to a pregnancy center in your area, somebody maybe at your church, somebody within your circle of influence that you can talk to, that you can really share what's going on. I think a lot of times what happens in these moments is we go inward and we refuse to talk to anybody, and then it just starts eating away at us. And what I would highly recommend is opening up to somebody. Don't be in denial about it. Talk to a medical professional, preferably at a pregnancy center, someone that's going to be honest with you and transparent with you about the decisions that are in front of you. Because the reality is you have three decisions. You can choose to parent, you can choose adoption, or you can choose termination. And no matter what you choose, your life will never be the same. Period.
That's man. So I never thought of that, but it's true.
The reality is our culture would say, have this abortion and move on with your life. That's not how this works. And you know how I know that's not how this works is even abortion clinics are starting to go, I don't know, maybe we need some kind of support group for these girls. Well, why would you need a support group?
Right.
Why would there be lasting ramifications of this decision if it's just a blob of cells and it means nothing? Because they know that there's lasting ramifications. And if you choose adoption, your life's never going to be the same.
Right.
And then as a parent, I know if you choose parenting, your life's never going to be the same. And so we know that these are things that are going to be wrestled with. You're not the first one, and you won't be the last one facing an unplanned pregnancy. And I know sometimes people are like, well, that's kind of harsh. But I think it does open us up to a place where we go, I'm not the only one that's been through this. When my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer, what was good for her was seeing other people and talking to other people that were diagnosed with breast cancer.
Right.
To know that she wasn't alone in that. My neighbors have wrestled with that. My friends have wrestled with that. People in my life have wrestled with that, and I didn't know it. We had a miscarriage after our first child, and when I opened up about that at church, it was amazing the amount of people that came up to me that I had no idea they had miscarriages. And they said, I never felt like I could open up about that, but now since you spoke about it in front of everybody, I want you to know that we had a miscarriage as well. And so these are things that we need to grapple with, but understand we're not alone in it. And for some of us, I think some of us listening, maybe you're not in a church, just a local church. Maybe you don't have a group of folks that you can do that. Then simply give a call. You can call us, 865-525-4673, or you can call the pregnancy center in your area, and somebody will talk to you and walk you through that, pray with you, and check up on you. I mean, those are the things that I would highly recommend. But I would also recommend if you find yourself in that situation, and I had a conversation with a young man just a few months ago that came here with his girlfriend, and she was pregnant. And I sat down with him and I said, do you understand what is happening? I said, the baby that's growing inside of your girlfriend right now has never been created before, will never be created again. And out of everyone that's ever walked the face of this earth, you've been chosen to be that dad. And that's heavy, but I think men need to be called to that heaviness and that responsibility. When I look at my kids tonight, when I go home, out of everyone that's ever walked the planet, I was picked to be their dad. And that's tough. And for some of us, we're going, yeah, but my dad was terrible. My mom was terrible. Okay, you have an opportunity to change something, to break that cycle, to go a different path, to go a different direction, and be the mom or dad that you didn't get to have. Take that serious. It matters. And that ultimately is what's going to move the ball down the field when we start saying, okay, this is important. This is worth my time. This is worth my effort.
I got a lot of goosebumps after listening to that one. You know, I was going to end it with that question, but I think what you just said kind of prompted another one in my head is, you know, for the church member who hears, so I'm just thinking for the other listener base who, you know, they aren't having to deal with that, you know, like whether they're married and they already have kids
Sure.
or they're single or whatever. How should we respond as the church when, you know, whether a teenager, young adult, older adult, whoever comes out and says, you know what, I'm pregnant, but I'm not married, or a dude who's like, yeah, my girlfriend's pregnant. What do I do? What's the best way for a Christian to respond in the moment when that happens?
Well, and I even wrestle with this with my own kids. I mean, my oldest is 9, but it's not crazy to think that at some point my son, my daughters are going to come in, and that's going to be a conversation. So what would that sound like? I think if it's one of your children, I think first and foremost, yeah, you say, this is not ideal. This is not how we raised you. This is not what we taught. But what's done is done. And if you're not a parent, or maybe you're a mentor, having that conversation doesn't have to be you screaming and throwing stuff and walking out. And I can't believe you did this to our family. You're no longer my daughter. Or you're no longer, to me, that is, you're certainly not moving them in the direction to choose life. You're moving them in the direction not only to choose against life, but they're also probably going to reject the God that you claim to serve.
Mm.
And so if we respond that way, when we know that our Jesus on the cross responded with, God forgive them, for they know not what they do, if that was his response, then as tough as it is, and as anti-abortion as I am, and as pro-life as I am, and as much as I've looked at it from every angle, and I can't even begin to see a need to go with an abortion. That's a biblical worldview, but I have to understand that when people are dealing with those struggles, even though I live in a biblical worldview mindset, I make choices every day that are anti-biblical worldview. It's just that when it comes to having sex out of wedlock and a pregnancy resulting from that, it's the one sin that shows itself. So if you got a kid that's coming into the youth group every day and he's addicted to porn, or he's addicted to something else, you may not see that. He may be great.
Right.
He's doing all the right things. And then you got a young lady, and every week that belly keeps getting bigger. And she might have had sex one time, and one time only. But because that one-time sin starts to show, you see the result of that, and then comes the shame, then comes the embarrassment, then comes the snowball starts rolling. So have you created an environment within your home, within your church, that's going to let people know we are a grace people living in a broken world? And in a broken, fallen world since Genesis 3, everything is fractured. So marriages are fractured. Relationships are fractured. That means that a young lady may get pregnant out of wedlock because of a bad mistake that she made. There's somebody that I went to school with, and I remember it like it was yesterday. We were 14 or 15, and we were all sitting in class, and she said to the whole group of us, I'm going to lose my virginity this weekend with my boyfriend. I remember thinking, well, that's a weird thing to tell
that's
us.
a weird announcement. Okay.
And a few weeks later, I'm pregnant. And so she ended up, we graduated together, but she had a toddler when we were seniors.
Wow.
And I could remember back to that night. You made a choice that night. And even though it was the first time, you still got pregnant. And so those are tough conversations. But again, if we're not creating environments within the gospel community to have those conversations, those folks are going to look for somewhere to find that conversation, to find that acceptance, to find that, to find that conversation. And what they're going to find is they're going to find that inside the abortion clinic, or they're going to find that with their atheist friend, or they're going to find that with the teacher that says you don't need a baby right now. Or they're going to find that with a college advisor that says you can't be a nurse. You can't get your nursing degree and have this baby. It's impossible. That's what they're going to be told if we're not stepping in and saying, no, you can have your baby and your dreams. And I have proof. Here's a story. Here's someone that'll sit down with you. And it's amazing the difference that makes. When we even see it here, when our patients, we've done video stories with patients from the past, and we share that video with some of our patients, they're like, oh, I can do this. Mm. And I think within the church, sometimes we struggle. I even went into one church one time, and a girl was pregnant, and she even said it to me. She's like, I don't have a wedding ring on because my hands are swollen, but people here think that I'm just popping out babies and I'm not married. And they say things to me. I'm like, well, that's a terrible environment for you. And my wife hasn't wore a wedding ring in I don't know how long because of what pregnancy has done to her body and because of her line of work. She works at a vet and she can't wear the diamond ring at the vet, so, but they see her with 4 kids and they may think something about her. Mm. And we have to create a place in us where we're saying, even when it comes to, they gave their kids up for adoption. What a terrible thing to say. No, they chose adoption for their baby. And we should celebrate the fact that they did.
Right, they chose
because
life.
the other decision that they would have made could have been the death of that baby.
Right.
But they chose a path for that child. But when you say things like you gave up your baby, well, that's a shameful thing to say. And so because of that, we created an environment, even within our culture, where we have patients come in and say, I'm either going to parent or I'm going to abort because adoption would make me a bad parent. But they don't see that abortion would make them a bad parent. Mm. These are real conversations that we're having. So we really got to be careful with the language that we're using, but truly the support system that's going to be there. Most of these patients that come through our doors, if they feel like they have some sort of support, they're going to choose life because they're going to feel like they're not alone. So even if their dad is upset, even if their mom is upset, if they follow that up with, but of course we're going to be here for you. Of course we're going to love you. Of course we're going to love this grandbaby. That makes all the difference in the world.
That's just unreal, man. Yeah. Like I don't know, Fuller and I are just sitting here thinking about all the conversations. And these are conversations, for me as a youth pastor, I've always tried to prep my leaders in terms of one of these days we're going to have a kid who walks in and says this. We got to be careful with what we say. But at the end of the day, what I'm hearing you say is, the church community, the gospel community is supposed to be one who, loves just the way Jesus loved. And he loved to the point of going all the way to the cross for people who hated him. And, at the end of the day, for us as Christians, it sounds like what we're called to do is, obviously not point out sin, because obviously the if someone's pregnant, the belly kind of points it out for them. But we're supposed to bring truth, whether it's hard or easy, into the light, but then bring the gospel conversations into that, no matter what happens.
Well, and it's worth the effort. I'm telling you, it is to see some of these moms come in, even if they're drug addicted, even if they've been in abusive relationships, even if what they consider normal is so abnormal to us, to see them in parenting class get a glimpse of, hold on, I can do this. I can really do that. I can be a mom. Or when I have conversations with young men about being a dad, and to see the kind of the light bulb moment where they go, hold on, I can do this. I can allow myself to look past the changing of the diapers. And even if I really think about it, I can allow myself to go, it would be tiring, but how awesome would it be to be the one that child looks to at 2:00 in the morning when they're scared? Mm-hmm. How awesome would it be to say, yeah, I'll stay up with you all night if that's what it takes, because you're mine. Like those are the moments that I've had just of being a dad, of going, yeah, this isn't ideal. This isn't something that I really enjoy. But if you need me to stay up with you all through the night, then that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
Because we've been called to do that. And so getting some of these young men that haven't had that modeled for them, getting them to see what being a dad can really be like. And it's more than just shooting basketball with them when they're in middle school, but it's all the things in between. It's just an amazing thing. Or my daughter this morning going, "Hey, let me show you the dance I learned at dance class," and she's 4. And taking the time to go, I need to get out the door, but my daughter really wants me to see this, so I'm going to see this.
Right.
Like having those moments and letting these young people know to cherish those moments. And I think once we have those conversations and we kind of take some of that shame away, again, not watering it down, not saying that, hey, just go out and have sex with whoever you want to have sex with, and we're just going to love you through it. No, not saying that. Say, there's an ideal here. There's the way it's been planned, but remembering we live in a broken, fallen world. And sometimes things don't go as planned. And so what are we prepared to do when we're hit with the news of things that we weren't planning for? Do we just throw them out? Do we just throw them away? Or do we step up to the plate and take on the responsibility? And for mentors and for gospel people within local church, that means you're going to have some skin in the game. You may have to buy a car seat. You may have to take somebody into your home. You may have to foster. You may have to adopt. And so what are we prepared to do?
Dude. Oh my goodness, man. No, we're literally speechless over here just listening to the beautiful story of what the gospel can do to change lives. Definitely. Man. We're going to put all the information in the show notes for you guys, speaking to the listener now. We'll put all the information just about, local pregnancy centers, how to find those. We'll also include links to Hope Resource Center and the phone number there that they can contact and reach out more. But Andrew, could you one more time give us the place where if someone wants to get information on where to go, where should the first place be they go?
Yeah, I would say investinghope.com, and you can, you'll learn everything you need to know about what we're doing. And then, you can find my contact information there as well. And then if you have questions about maybe you're not really sure about the pregnancy center in your area, reach out to me. I know I'm connected with a lot of pregnancy centers around the country, and I can get you plugged in and connected to them as well. We of course would love your support with ours in Knoxville, but we would also love for you to step up and be involved in the one in your community, so you can see it firsthand. We'd love to help point you in that direction.
I love it, man. I love it. So yeah, well, again, we'll put all that information in the show notes.
Definitely. Man, thank you, Andrew. We definitely appreciate you taking the time and coming on here and talking to us and talking to our listeners. I could probably listen to you talk all night. So
yeah, we're enjoying it, man.
I appreciate that. I could listen to me talk all night.
See, there's the real proof that you are a preacher, man. I love it. Well, hey, Andrew, before we let you go, though, man, we're going to let you be a part of the best part of the show. Not this week, all the other weeks. But, we always end the show since episode 1. Actually, I didn't even tell you this part. We'll do the little jingle in a second. We got to do the jingle. But the first fun fact with Fuller we ever did was episode 1, and I sprung it on Fuller.
It was all by pure accident.
It was just like, hey, Fuller, do you have a fun fact to close us out? And he was like, and he's whipped one out real fast. And so we've been doing fun facts with Fuller now for over a year and a half.
Yeah, and then about 6 months ago, I did a jingle with you're about to hear it. It's my 2 girls and my wife doing a little jingle here, and it just makes me smile, and I get the biggest smile and most joy in my heart ever when I hear it. So
I love it. All right,
awesome.
Time for fun facts with Fuller.
Time for fun facts with Fuller.
That last laugh, bro. The last laugh always gets me. Fuller, what you got for the fun fact to end today's episode, man?
So,
what you got?
We use our brains a lot.
Well, I don't. You do.
Okay. Well, me and Andrew use our brains a lot.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, did you know, Mark and listeners and Andrew, that your brain uses 12 watts of energy to think and does not feel pain? The brain uses 20% of our resting metabolic. I can't even say it tonight.
Apparently, you're not using your brain today.
Metabolic calorie rate to keep functioning. It does not feel any pain because there are no pain receptors in the brain itself.
Wait, what?
There's no pain receptors in the brain itself.
Huh.
But, obviously your brain gets signals from the rest of your body.
So you just think your brain feels pain, but in reality, it's your body that feels pain that tells your brain to recognize, oh,
Right.
I'm in pain.
Correct.
That makes sense because there's those people who suffer from like those, I don't know what the nerve problem is where they can't feel pain.
Right, exactly. Or can't feel cold, like heat, cold, anything like that, extremes. So yeah, it's interesting about the brain.
That I knew about the watts, but I did not know about the pain.
God made our little 3-pound brains pretty fascinating.
I love it, man. Well, hey, Andrew, dude, we appreciate you so much for coming on the episode today, man.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate y'all, and just glad that there's dudes out there that care about Jesus and seeking to make a difference. So y'all keep it up, man.
Hey, appreciate it. Well, hey, all you guys out there in listener land, man, we want to continue the conversation with you guys. So if you're at a spot where maybe you're wrestling with some of these conversations or even some of the questions that we've had, or you find yourself at a spot where, you know what, Marc Fuller, I need help. Seriously, feel free to reach out to us. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. You got the website, realtalkchristianpodcast.com.
Call us at 574-400-5352.
The email, realtalkchristianpodcast@gmail.com. And just a reminder, we'll give whoever emails us first a mini swag bag with some coffee in there.
That's correct. And again, if you can't find Andrew's information through our show notes, go ahead and give us a contact, and we can put you in contact with him or with a pregnancy care center around our area, depending if you're in our area or not.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hey, Fuller, it's been real. Andrew, thank you again, man.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
All right, until next time, guys.
Take it easy.